You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona Lewis, and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done. And we are back for another fantastic podcast from Biz-Souls. Just ask me, I will tell you. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
We get to the heart and soul of business and
the people that make it happen. And today we're with Andrea Hickey, and she is one of the people that makes it happen in the acting world. And I have to tell you guys, I made one of my classic mistakes. I didn't start the recording right away. So this is take two.
Take two of that. And Jeffrey is extra excited today because I have pretty much been the one that have gotten all our guests because I just know a lot of people. And today, Andrea is Jeffrey's guest. Well, she's both our guests and a friend of Jeffrey's. So go ahead, Jeffrey. Tell us all about Andrea, the lovely and talented Andrea Hickey.
Well, first of all, I think she's going to be our ticket to attend the Academy Awards eventually. So I have high expectations.
Notice how we just invite ourselves.
Exactly. Which, if not now, when? So she's been described as a Jessica Rabbit with a master's degree in her role.
Very nice.
Leading role in the Tiny House movie and A Western Tale, both of which she received Best Actress awards. And we know acting is a tough business, and it demands commitment, investment, talent, and a little bit of luck. And so Andrea is here today to share her experiences, her insights, and suggestions about acting and the business of acting.
Excellent. Hello, Andrea.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we are so excited to have you. You know, there are so many people who really don't understand what goes into the business of acting and making movies and TV and, you know, behind it. And it's not quite as easy and glamorous as people think, you know?
And so we'll start off with some background. Where did you grow up? Your family?
Tell us everything.
Significant experiences.
Who was your best friend?
And then we can talk about how you decided to go into the career of acting.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I say that I grew up in Nashville because I was there the longest and for the majority of my younger years. My dad was a basketball coach, so we moved around a little bit. I was also in Lynchburg, Virginia for my younger years. And then that's when we ended up moving to Lookout Mountain, Georgia after that. And then Nashville, about 7 years after that. And I have a younger sister. Her name is Olivia. So it was just the two of us. And we always grew up loving I Love Lucy. And we would act out episodes from I Love Lucy. We actually, on Lookout Mountain, we lived on a couple acres and we had a barn, but we didn't have any horses or any animals other than our dog Shadow. And we converted that barn into an I Love Lucy apartment. And
Right.
so we would watch the episodes religiously, and then I would put her through acting boot camp, as she calls it, because it was a long process, and I made sure we got it right. And then we would go out to the barn, and then we would act out our scenes, and then sometimes we would perform them in front of my parents. And really, I Love Lucy is where I got my love for acting. I was 3 years old when my grandma introduced it to me. We were watching it one day and I saw Lucille Ball and all of her antics. And I went, I want to do what she does. And I didn't really know, of course, at the time what that meant. I just wanted to be like Lucy. And so that is honestly where it started. And then Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman was another one of my favorite shows. So I pretended to be Michaela and my sister was any of the other characters. I always had to be the lead. You know.
Well, you were the older sister, so you got to choose.
Exactly. Now, I would entice her sometimes if she didn't want to play or come to boot camp. I would say, okay, today you can be Lucy, you know, and I'll be Ethel. You know, it didn't last very long though, because we ended up.
So who played Ricky and Fred?
Ricky and Fred, they were just our imaginary people. So they were there just in our imaginations.
That's the way to do it.
Oh, that's
Exactly.
fantastic.
That's so much fun.
That's like great. That's like great prep for acting where you're talking to the camera half the time.
And yeah, and Lucy was an absolute genius. with
Oh,
Absolutely.
what you did. I mean,
absolutely.
she was so in the moment and all that kind of stuff. It was great.
Look, I want to get into the family crisis. Didn't your dad want you to play basketball or something? Or
He did. And I tried my hardest. We got a basketball hoop and I would practice my layups. It just wasn't really my thing. I wasn't that passionate about it. I wasn't even that good, but I gave it my all. And then he let it go. He never put pressure on me, to do that. And which was great because he really wanted me to find my own passions and my own place in this world. And he was actually the one that, had found my first audition. So I had my first audition for Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. And it was back then it was in the newspapers. So I'll never forget, we were sitting in church and it was right before church started. He had his newspaper and this audition was posted and he said, Andrea, I really think you should do this tomorrow. And I'm going, tomorrow? Oh my goodness, Dad, I don't even know what to do. And he said, that's okay. I'll take you. We'll just show up and we'll see what it's about. And I did. And I ended up, it was between me and one other girl actually that was for the role and she ended up getting it. But that's kind of what started my love for acting in the audition process and, developing these characters and being in that world in a professional way. So I do kind of owe it to my dad, I'll say.
So
That's nice.
I know it's reaching back a long ways. How'd you feel after that? I mean, your first experience, it's like, okay, I went for it and didn't get it. I mean, what was can you recall, like it sounds like a monumental moment.
It really was. We were in this very big auditorium and that was the time when, everybody that was auditioning was in the room with you, parents, kids, siblings. I mean, they brought everybody. And we were, it was me and this other girl just kind of going back and forth. So they would say, okay, Andrea, now we need you to do this. And then, okay, now we need you to do this. And we were really kind of going toe to toe, head to head, competing with each other. It was very nerve wracking. It was hard. I remember, I think I cried actually after not getting that one. And my dad just said, well, you need to be so proud of yourself because you got to the end. I mean, it was between you and one other person. So for your first go, I would say that's a pretty good job. So that's kind of what kept me going was like, okay, well, I got close. Okay, maybe not this one, but it'll be the next one.
That is the true voice of a good coach.
Yeah, that's true.
Really? Yeah. Because he's positive. I mean, you were an athlete. You know what good coaching is.
A very enlightened father too. He's kind of going with it. I've known so many kids that their fathers were stuck on one thing or their mothers were stuck on one thing, and when they wouldn't support them in what they really wanted to do.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Good job, Dad. Well done.
Your dad's still alive?
What was that?
Your dad's still alive?
He is.
Excellent.
So you can show this to him. And kudos to you, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. That is great.
That's awesome. So obviously this you started really, really young. So what else did you do, as you got older to to really hone your craft, and what were the first steps for you making a living at it?
Yeah. And how old were you when this happened? I'm sorry, you may have said that. I got sidetracked.
I was 10 or 11 when I had that first audition.
Okay.
And so then in high school, did you continue with it?
I did. So I loved theater. I did all through high school. I ended up actually auditioning for college productions while in high school and getting to do that. They opened that up for the community, which was wonderful. It was Belmont University in Nashville. And they're very important to me because I feel like they kind of pushed that belief in me. They really believed in my ability and my talent and gave me that opportunity outside of just high school productions. And I ended up graduating from Belmont with an acting degree. And I continued through high school. I had multiple acting scholarships to different colleges, but I really just wanted to stay closer to home. I started at the University of Memphis. So I got a little bit away from Nashville, but during that time I was struggling with an eating disorder. And that actually started when I was 15, and it just continued to progress and get, pretty dark and deep. And my parents actually had to pull me out of college to go into treatment because I was dying at the time. And even though my professional life, so to speak, in theater was going really well, I was not doing well on a personal level. And so they ended up, like I said, pulling me out. And I went to Wickenburg and I went to Remuda Ranch and ended up going to treatment for 45 days and came out just healed and recovered and having this new lease on life and really wanting to help other people who were struggling with this. So I ended up kind of taking a little detour. I ended up getting my master's in counseling so that I could help other girls that were struggling with eating disorders and body image issues. And then when I was a counselor for a few years, I just continued to have this calling for acting. I missed it. I missed it deeply. And I ended up transitioning back into it. It started with, again, theater. And then a few years after doing that, I had someone approach me and say, you really need to get an agent. I think you would do great in film and television and commercials. And that's kind of what led me to that part of it. And so I've only been doing film and television for the past couple of years.
And you seem to be doing pretty well. First of all, thank you for sharing that story. It's a very brave story to tell. So we definitely appreciate it. I'm just going to ask one question.
I wanted to stay on that subject too.
Okay. I just, all right. So you want to ask about that? I just wanted to ask about your transition from theater to in front of the camera, because the methods are incredibly different.
Very different. And that was one of the hardest things for me. I have a lot of energy just normally. I'm very expressive. And to tone that down in front of the camera was very difficult. It's still a challenge, honestly. Like when I do my auditions, I have to really go, I think that was a little too big, Andrea. You've got to really tone that down. You've got to minimize it. Right. And it's a challenge to transition from that, especially because I've done theater my whole life.
Yeah, it's a big difference. Sorry, Jeffrey, go ahead.
Well, so going back to the eating disorder, was it a trigger because everybody you saw, the models at the time, they wanted them a size 0, what was that a bit of the whole industry of impact that got into that, or what kind of created that?
What created it for me was, at the time I was at an all-girls school, and the big thing there was cheerleading. And if you made the cheerleading team, it was like that kind of set you up for success for the rest of your high school years. And I really worked hard at it. I was so excited about this. I had coaching. I was stretching every night. I was practicing during the day, and I really, wanted it. And I ended up not making the team. And that was the thing that triggered that belief in me that I wasn't good enough. Mm-hmm. And it didn't matter how hard I worked at something, that I still may not get it. And so I turned that inward. And instead of, again, kind of going, okay, Andrea, that's okay, you can try out again next year, it just took over my psyche, and the belief of I'm not good enough just kind of permeated through my whole being. And that's what started my eating disorder. And I kind of gravitated to, okay, well, let me focus on what I can control. I can't control whether I got the team. I can't control whether they liked me or chose me. So now I'm going to focus and control my eating and exercising. And that's just how it began. And it started off, just wanting to lose a few pounds. And then it just really rapidly progressed after that. It became, weighing every day. If I didn't weigh what I wanted, I didn't feel good about myself. Even when I did weigh what I wanted on the scale, I still didn't feel good about myself. It always became about the number. Okay, when I get to this number, I'll feel better. And it just doesn't happen that way. And then the thing that you think you're controlling sadly ends up controlling you. So it was a really rough time. I struggled with anorexia for the first 6 years. And then when I got to college, it transitioned to bulimia. So I had both anorexia and bulimia.
Boy, when you go all the way, huh? Why go for just one? I'm going to go for them both. Good for you. Well, I got to tell you, kudos. Your resilience is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
If I'm going to do it, I'm going to go all the way.
Right. That's it.
It's good.
And kudos to you for your recovery. and does it ever go away, that wanting to, I'm not thin enough, I'm not good enough? Does that still go in your head, or, I don't know enough about those issues.
Sure. So I definitely still struggle with it. I definitely still have to have my positive affirmations. I still have to check myself, because especially in this industry that I'm in, when it is a lot about how you look
Sure.
and what you weigh, I really have to be cognizant of the fact of, it can still affect me. And I just have to be very, very self-aware. And when I do kind of have those days of those feelings coming back in, just kind of bringing them to the forefront has always been a good thing for me. And then, having a positive outlet, whether it's, doing some yoga, doing Pilates, meditating, like I said, doing my affirmations, going horseback riding, any of those positive things for me really help me get outside of myself and outside of those thoughts and feelings into doing something else.
Nice. Excellent.
So you got an agent, and did you get a publicist? Did you go manager? What was it? Do you still have the same agent?
So I still have the same agent in Arizona.
Okay.
I have a different agent now in Los Angeles. Okay. And then I have the same manager that I had when I first got out to Los Angeles a couple of years ago. And he's just been an amazing support for me. He has been wonderful at guiding my career, really helping me get to the next steps, while also continuing to encourage me, because I do get impatient. And I know this industry is about the long haul. It's not about the sprints. So he is very good at, he's always says to me, Andrea, you're just polishing your rock. So like, there's just different parts of your rock that we're just polishing, whether it's, the next step of getting a bigger role on a television show, or getting a, better footage for my reel. Just every little step, he just says, we're just polishing. And there really isn't a finish line in this. There's no end game. So as long as you're continuing to work hard and do what you need to do on your end, it's going to come. Yeah. So he's been wonderful. My Arizona agent has been absolutely wonderful. I booked my first few commercials with them, and then they actually helped me get on a new HBO show coming up, nice. Which is wonderful. I can't talk about that. I signed an NDA, but it's going to be exciting. And they helped me with that. And my new agent in LA is wonderful as well. So it's just great to have a team behind you who believes in you and continues to help push you get to those next levels in your career.
A lot of people don't know the difference between an agent and a manager, what they do for it. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So a manager really helps you specifically on your actor package, helping you get to the next step, looking at your materials, saying, this is what we need to do different. This is your brand. This is how I think the industry will see you. So we need to tailor your package to that. And they will also now submit you for auditions and get you auditions. An agent really just focuses on auditions, and then they will negotiate your contracts. So that's kind of the difference. A manager's more hands-on, and an agent is more hands-off.
Got it.
But they're still essentially, trying to progress your career.
Yeah.
Excellent explanation. And how did you plan for it from a business standpoint, from a financial statement? So acting is a lot of, hi, money's going out for coaching, for training, for driving here, for driving there, and not a lot comes in, especially in the beginning. How do you
absolutely. Yeah, that was a big shock, because it's not a lot of money coming in. And a lot of times when you're just starting out, you're doing it for free. You're just trying to get on set. You're just trying to learn the craft. You're trying to get some footage so that you can be submitted for auditions. So thankfully, I've had a lot of people in my corner who have, either helped financially over the years, or, like I had an acting scholarship to college, which was wonderful. So I didn't have that debt. But my husband and I have definitely had to budget. We've definitely had moments where I've had to maybe pick up a side job here or there if I wanted to get the new headshots, because like you said, it's always money going out before a lot of it is coming back in. And it's just continuing to invest in your career all the time. So I would say having a good budget, knowing that there are going to be things coming up like headshots that you're going to have to get, always updating your actors access, making sure you have a great demo reel, making sure you're in classes and consistently improving are big expenses. And I honestly don't know how people do it if they can't afford it. And it's a hard career.
That's why they wait tables.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's the great thing about the service industry too, is because you can wait tables. And if you get an audition or you need to go out of town, they work with you on that.
Yeah.
So I think that's why a lot of actors do, wait tables.
Yeah. And I've seen them do personal training. In LA, there's a lot of that, they drive Uber and all things where they have that entrepreneurial mindset that they can rearrange their schedule. So is that what happened to you when you did you do something else, or you just always did the acting? Did you have a side gig to help bring money in?
I've had side gigs. I've been a waiter many, many times throughout my career. Thankfully, my husband has a wonderful job. So he has the more stable job.
That's your husband. Yes.
So I get to play.
And we love play.
Yes.
Anyway.
I was listening. I'm always watching clips. I've always had an eye on Hollywood movies. Absolutely. I love them. And I'm excited about the business underneath. Michael Keaton was talking about the thing that changed his career was his view of auditions. And he said he used to go to audition thinking that he was trying to get the work. And then one day he just decided, no, this is the job. And it was a mind bend where he said, this is a job. I already have the job. This is just part of the job. And he says he still gets disappointed when he doesn't get a job on something or like that. I mean, how do you set your head for doing auditions, which are, there's a lot of adrenaline's rushing on those.
A lot of adrenaline. It's so funny because even if I'm doing a self-tape audition in my own home, I still get that nervous energy. Still, you kind of have to work out those kinks, because auditioning is such a skill in and of itself. And that's what I learned too, that being on set is one thing, having the job, developing the character is one thing, but auditioning is completely different. And it's definitely something I've had to work out those kinks. I have a great coach who helps me with my auditions. He says it really isn't about booking that specific job. It's about doing good work every time you're submitting the audition. You are showing the casting director, the directors, the producers, hey, I may not be right for this role, but I can show you that I'm a great actor. I can show you that I will do the work. I won't just roll out of bed and go, I'm home. I'm just going to kind of have my script in my hand. I'm not even going to memorize the lines. I'm just going to throw it out there, put it on tape and send it out. I typically work on an audition for days. If I have the time, I will work on it for days. Learning the lines, getting into character, figuring out the behavior of my character, and really working through that so that I can submit a great self-tape audition so that I can show them, I will do the work for you. And, thankfully that's been a good process for me.
Absolutely.
Do you have a committed style like Uta Hagen or Method or
Meisner, Stanislavski?
I don't have a committed style. I kind of take things from each of them because I learned about all of them in college.
Sure.
And so we would have to take different classes. And I think each one has their own important thing that you can take from them. What I really do is focus on character. I focus on their behavior. I figure out the obstacles and the tactics that I'm going to be using within the scene. My teacher and coach always says it's two characters going toe to toe in every scene.
Right.
And it's about you changing the behavior of the other character. And I love that. And so it's really about working those characters, working those tactics, and figuring out what that character wants, what your character wants, and how you're going to go about getting it. But again, I love pulling from everything, kind of like a hodgepodge of having your action box and going, hey, this one will work today, or this one will work for this audition.
Yeah. I mean, is there a philosophy involved in that, in the sense that, there are people who are just strictly method actors. And if you're in a movie with them, you can't talk to them as them because they are the evil doctor for months on end, because that's what they play. So do you have a philosophy about that, or you just do what works?
I think you have to do what works for you. I don't think, for me, method acting wouldn't work. But I am inspired and I'm in awe of people like Jim Carrey that can do that. Anyone that can be method, I think it's truly amazing. But I guess I don't want it to take over my life like that, especially when you do play darker characters. Sure. That can affect you not only, physically, but mentally in your life. So it just kind of depends on what character you're even playing, that you may decide, hey, I kind of want to go a little method with this. But, those that can do it, I'm obviously very in awe of. It's just not my style.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm going to skip around to the business side of it. So we actually met on social media. So how has social media supported you, and how are you utilizing it to build your career, build your audience?
Sure. Well, I love Facebook. Obviously, that's how we met. That's how we connected. It's my personal Facebook right now. I try to keep it more geared towards the business rather than a lot of my personal life. But I love that I can meet people through it. I love that I can connect with other actors and people in the industry through it. That's honestly my only social media right now. I used to have Instagram. I don't have it. I was just actually emailed this morning of a guy saying, do you have any, social media that your fans can follow? We can keep up with you. Like, no, I mean, I really just have Facebook right now, because Instagram was a lot. Social media can be a lot to keep up with. And for me, Instagram was a lot, and I just didn't want to devote that much time in my own life to that. But again, the people that do, I think it's great. I would love to be able to hire someone to take over my social medias one day. That's kind of the goal, so I can be separate from it. But like I said, I love Facebook because of the connecting aspect. And I do feel like with Facebook, you do get that personal interaction. You do get that kind of personal connection with people in the industry.
So you think that, just continuing on the business side, you think Facebook for people in the acting industry is a better way to go than something like LinkedIn?
For me personally, it has been, but I think people have had success with LinkedIn. A lot of people have success with Instagram. Mm-hmm. I know that for them, I just feel like you kind of do what works for you and you figure that out. And if social media is taking over too much, or it's affecting your mental health, I know a lot of actors talk about that, then step away from it. Because I had this great conversation with my manager about this specifically. I said, I had Instagram. I don't really want to get it back. It was a lot. It took up a lot of my time. What do you think about that? Is that going to negatively affect my career? And he said, no. I mean, he was like flat out, no, you just do the work, Andrea, and that's what's going to progress your career. It's not going to be something on social media. It's not going to be whether you have Instagram or Snapchat or Twitter. And that's just kind of the advice that he gave me, which was great, because it kind of was, I was free from it, if that makes sense. I didn't have to go all those leaps and bounds. But again, people do have a lot of success with it. I know a lot of my coworkers have a lot of success on Instagram, and they have fan pages and people can follow and keep up with them. And I love that for them. So maybe one day.
Yeah. And Liz, it's a lot of work. My nephew is a food influencer on TikTok, and even he's 26, I think. He's exhausted. I just saw him a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, it's a lot. So I can understand how it can take a lot out of your day, especially it's like, do I do this or do I practice for my audition? So.
Exactly. And when's the best time to post? What hashtag should I use? Right. I don't want to think about it.
Rona's friend Jess Ponce, the third. He's a media consultant, and he does a lot of work in Hollywood. Anyway, he was talking about a new social media account called Reel. It's RE.AL. Anyway, and then I was watching on Facebook an ad. Some guy threw his phone up to a guy band, and the guy goes, "Oh, you want me to do a reel?" And what you do is you take a picture of yourself at a certain time. They give you time slots to take a picture of yourself and whatever is going on outside. So yourself in the audience. You might look into it.
Oh, okay.
We interviewed
it seems a
him.
lot less work.
Yeah, we interviewed him last week. So you have to listen to the podcast or watch it on YouTube and give you hits.
Absolutely. I'll do that.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
And let's see. Did you have one real quick?
Well, I wanted to, I looked at your acting reel and your, your reel for your action scenes, your action reel. So, what, who told you to do both of them? And, what, is that done more, or is that, because I've actually never heard of having an acting and an action reel.
Oh, okay. Well, I've done a lot of action short films, and I can do that, hand-to-hand fighting, hand-to-hand combat. And it was actually my manager who suggested that I have the different reel just to showcase a different side of myself.
Yeah.
So I can play the one type of characters, and then I can also do the action type as well, because it is a separate skill. So it was a suggestion from him to put that out, which was cool, because I do get called in a lot for those SWAT officers or, agents, or which always makes me laugh when I have to do that with my husband, because he's actually that type of character. So me trying to emulate that just always makes me laugh. And it takes me a lot to get into that character because he's the one that does it. And then I'm here trying to go, oh, I can do it too, with my, higher pitched voice.
It's hysterical. So is he the one who taught you all the moves and all that kind of thing? Nice.
He did.
That's
yes.
Great.
He taught me how to guns and, how to do all of that and how to look cool when you're doing it,
Right. Do you have a genre that your favorite, like drama, action, comedy,
period pieces, anything?
Or wherever the check is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Right.
I interrupted you. What?
I would say right now, wherever the check is, whenever I get the audition, but in my heart of hearts, it would be Westerns. I love Westerns. I love riding horses. I ride horses weekly. I get trained actually by someone who won at Madison Square Gardens many years ago. So she is incredible. And I'm learning to ride English, bareback. I can ride Western, and being with the horses and being out in that environment just fills my heart with so much joy that if I were a series regular on a Western, I would not be sad about it. I would be
talking his language. You are. He is a Western boy from the get-go.
I think we should just put in a plug. Kevin Costner. I think you'd be a perfect villain because you love horses. Whereas, and God, I'm drawing a blank on her name. His daughter. Anyway, she hates riding. In the Yellowstone.
Oh, I don't watch Yellowstone. Oh, okay.
Do you watch Yellowstone?
I do. I love Yellowstone.
Oh, it's great. He is just amazing production. Love it.
And
I'm not forgetting her name, and she's fantastic. Everybody loves her.
On the show, what's her name?
The
Riley.
Red. Yes. I think that's right.
Yeah.
That's your son's name, and you didn't remember?
No. That's her last name. Oh, God, this is horrible. This is going to go out. I'm going to get hate mail for this.
Oh,
anyway,
my God.
Yeah, it's great. So did you team rope, barrel race? Are you Western English?
No, Western English and bareback.
Okay.
And just doing different skills with the horses. It's so funny because my newer agent is actually pitching me for the show Yellowstone. And that's what got me back into riding horses. And because she said, Andrea, do you ride horses? And I said, well, I used to. I haven't really done a lot with that recently. And she said, well, just a tip, you might want to, So I kind of started getting back into it and just again, fell back in love with it and thought, I'm never going to stop riding horses. I love it. So I do love Yellowstone. I think it's a great show and I would love to be on it.
Fingers crossed on that.
Yes.
Break a leg, as they say.
So what, based on your experience, how would you recommend someone get started in the business?
Ooh, that is a great question. Well, for me, I started with theater, or if we want to go way back in the barn,
First, get a barn, then
Travel a lot.
Yeah.
Have a coach as a dad.
yeah. And, so I think trying to find the area that you love the most, if you love theater, do that. If you love film, do that. If you love television, commercials, I know a lot of actors that just love doing commercials and that's their little niche and they love it and they do that so well. I think if you want to get serious about the industry, you really do have to be in bigger markets like Los Angeles, like New York. I mean, even Atlanta has some incredible productions coming out of it. So I think if you want to be serious and you want to really get successful at it, you really have to start targeting those markets and getting your materials up to date, getting your actor package, great enough so that an agent and a manager will take you on to say, okay, we will start submitting you for these bigger projects. Because just the smaller markets are fantastic for, getting the materials, getting your footage, getting experience on set, learning. And then once you get to the bigger markets, you really kind of already have to hone that and, be ready when your agent or manager sends you out for those big auditions.
now you were saying how your managers suggested you start riding horses more. So people who are getting into the industry, should they have something, special, that like a special talent that they should hone while they're doing it, whether it's languages or, something that might make them stand out?
I say absolutely anything that helps you. That's what my manager said. Any skill that you can do just puts you above the competition. He even told me recently that a skill can replace credits. So even if an actor doesn't have as many TV credits or film credits, if they do a skill so well, then they're going to get chosen because of that. So anything that you can learn and do, I think just adds to the career, especially if you love it. For me, I love riding horses. So even though it helps my acting, it helps me as a person, and my mental health and everything, just being out there with them. So they do go hand in hand, which is great. But I say, yes, if you can find things that you love to do, then pursue that. And then that will always help your acting career.
Excellent.
Yeah, there's I think in your area, there's a guy, I don't know if he's still teaching, Larry Lilly. He's basically kind of a rodeo coach. So he's the one who got me team roping, and geez, the first rodeo we were in, we actually won the penning. So I just he said, okay, pick a couple guys, we'll throw a team together. And then we actually won. So I won my belt buckle in penning in it. So I mean, I'm with you. Like she said, I'm with you on the rodeo. on the Western stuff. Absolutely love it.
I actually had to make him take his cowboy hat off to do this because it doesn't fit with the headset on. It's frightening.
I love it.
Oh, great. Yeah.
It looks a little weird when he goes swimming, but other than that, it's great. Anyway, what are some of the biggest mistakes people make in the business, and what can be done to avoid them?
I think paying to play. Anybody that's asking you for money to be in a film, I don't agree with. I know that in smaller markets that happens, they'll say, yes, like if you support our film, if you help fund our film, we'll give you a role. I just always feel like that's a little grimy. I think actors they're preyed upon a lot because they have this big dream and this hope that this one role will get them, to the next level or make them a star. And so actors tend to be the ones that are kind of left out when it comes to financially when they're starting out. Crew gets paid over actors. because they know, well, I'll just find someone else who's willing to do it for free, or I'll find someone else who's willing to pay to be in my film. So I would say avoid that. Anyone asking you for money, if you give us $3,000, we'll make you a star. Avoid those people. There's a lot of scams out there for actors. And so anybody that's asking you to pay, I would say completely avoid.
Good advice.
Anything, there's a lot of criticism being focused on Hollywood, violence in films. And again, Jess Ponce was saying, he said, well, is it Hollywood that's bringing out violence in film, or are they just delivering to the audience because that's what the audience wants to buy? There's also, Harvey
Weinstein.
A lot of that going on. Blonde just came out, which really I think is sad, because I don't think Marilyn Monroe, from everything else that I'd read about her, was a victim. She was actually quite strong in what she was doing. So, is that stuff going on? Or is it just like every other place in the world, every other business in the world? You've got people that are good and focused on the business, and then people that are focused on, I don't know, whatever.
Well, there's,
whatever deviance
there are good people and bad people in every industry. And I think it has been highlighted in Hollywood because there's just so much attention. So have you seen a lot? Do you think it goes on as much? Is the casting couch what it used to be? That sort of thing.
It's happened to me. So I can just go off my own personal experiences and then just what other actresses have told me, that yes, it is still going on. I had an experience on film recently where I was sexually harassed, and so was another actress, and he ended up getting kicked off the film. And thankfully, I feel like now people take it seriously, and I was able to go to who I needed to go to about the situation, and they were able to, help me, hear me, and then get that guy off of the set. But I would say from my own experience, it does still happen. And like you said, Rona, it happens in a lot of industries. You just have really good people that are there that, understand it's a job, and we're all there to do our job and do it well and to treat people with respect. And then there's others who take advantage of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that a couple of years ago, there was a huge outcry in terms of sex scenes, and they had to have advisors on the scenes, and now everybody has to leave, and everybody has to be totally comfortable, which is obviously understandable because you're naked and you have to, it's staying in that moment and not thinking about the 30 people that are watching you off camera. So
right.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, and thankfully, the union, I'm part of the union, and they have so many procedures to protect actors and people that you can call. And that's why one of the many reasons why I love being a part of the union, just for their protection.
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, is there opportunities for you to get more involved with the union as a member of the union? One of our big projects for organizational development, we worked with a union, and the people in the union can run for office. Is that something you have any interest in, or no, just no interest in it?
I think maybe one day. I know that you've had to have many, many years in the business, from my understanding, to do things like that. They may have volunteer things that you can do. I haven't really looked into it a lot, but I do know that, to hold, a position in SAG, you would have had to have been in the business for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be great one day. Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of which, how'd you get your SAG card?
How did I get my SAG card? Oh, this was a good day. I thought I was going to be background on The Young and the Restless. So they posted it on Actors Access, and I went, oh my gosh, I would just love to be on that show. I watched it with my mom and grandma growing up. I wanted to be on set. And so I ended up submitting for it, and they called me in. And so I went in, and they ended up upgrading me to a role on the show. And that, based off the days I was there and filming, because I was on multiple episodes, I became SAG eligible. And
so was that's a Taft-Hartley Is that what they did?
They actually didn't Taft-Hartley me.
Really?
No, they did not. And so I became SAG eligible for that, and then ended up joining the union a couple years later. So I was still working non-union jobs just to kind of, help my resume and different things like that. But that was a good day.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's really big.
So, career path. What do you see going forward? Where do you have an area of focus?
Academy Awards. We're just
Well,
talking about that.
Of course, that's it.
Well, of course, I have my big dreams. I think every little girl, especially that loves this industry, has that picture or vision of themselves on the Oscar stage, accepting their award. That would obviously be a huge dream. But really just finding my own success in the industry, really being on TV shows and being a part of projects that I'm proud of, that I really want to share with people and tell people about. That's really the ultimate dream for me. And again, being on a Western would be absolutely amazing for me. But, I think this industry has so many different levels of success. And it's really important as an actor and as a person that you establish your own levels of success. What does that look like for you? So I think it's a great question you guys asked, because, what does that look like for me? I love film and I love television. So having continued success in those areas would be wonderful. And
we are certainly going to root for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I just finished a conversation with the Huntington Beach CVB, Convention Visitors Bureau. And one of the things that they're focusing on is getting more films into Huntington Beach. They're working on being even more film friendly. So maybe we'll see you in the neighborhood. You can always call.
And you can sleep on Jeffrey's couch because he has a couch. So you have 2 couches next time you come to LA.
We have a guest room for you, the dogs, and your husband.
There you go.
Well, thank you.
Well, this has been very exciting. I learned a lot.
I learned an absolute lot.
This has been great.
Andrea, you've been great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
so
spending your
much.
time. And you have a lovely home. So
There you go. Yes, a very nice kitchen.
Well,
All right. Thank you so much. If anybody has any, Andrea, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Or should they get in touch with your manager or your agent?
Oh,
Absolutely.
that's a good question.
Yeah, the best, probably most efficient way is through my website. It's theandreahickey.com. And there's different areas. So I've got my agent information, my manager information, and you can do that. You can also email me at theandreahickey.com or at gmail.com as well. So, but the best way, I think most professional way, is obviously through my manager or agent. And all of that information is also on my IMDb.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Thank you
All
so much.
This has been Biz-Souls with our guest, the lovely and talented Andrea Hickey. I am one of your co-hosts, Rona Lewis.
And I'm Jeffrey Hansler, your other co-host.
Thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you next time. And scene.
That was great. Thank you very, very much.
Yes.
This is so much fun.
You're very, very good.
Thank you. You guys are wonderful. I love your podcast. I was listening to
thank you.
and I just love your energy and your vibe. I've been asked to be on a lot of them, and I've actually turned them down because when you listen to them, you're like, I don't think I want to be a part of that, but I love you guys.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.